Hey guys, this is Revolt Computers back with another video. Today we're going to talk about VPN with PFsense, and we're going to use PFsense to be able to create VPN clients to protect whatever traffic that you want going out through your network out to the internet. Now, an easy way to do this is to set up a client on each PC and then connect to your VPN provider, and that'll work just fine. But let's say that you have other machines or servers or anything that you want to be able to protect that traffic. Or you just have services within those servers. You just have certain IPs that you want to be able to protect. This is where PFsense can come in handy. If it sounds interesting, then we'll continue into PFsense. Tips. I'm personally using the VPN provider Mulvad. You can use whatever VPN provider that you want, but this one is pretty useful. And I feel like their privacy has held up pretty well. The only changes that are going to be are how you're going to get their files, like their configuration files, but otherwise it's pretty much the same across the board. And there's going to be a little bit of different configuration in PFsense, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. Alright, so either way, the first thing that you want to do, if you want to use PFsense as a VPN client in order to protect traffic going out, is that we need to get the configuration files from your VPN provider. Now again, mine's from Mulvad. It's pretty easy. Log into Mulvad, you get your configuration files, and I'll show you what those look like once you download them. So they look kind of like this, where basically you have a few files. You have a configuration file, your username and password file, and this certificate file. So this is the one we really care about, but we don't want to install that on this local machine. What we want to do is we want to look at it. So your certificate's going to have actual values in it. Mine just has garbage data, but this is exactly what you're going to need in order to build your certificate in PFsense. So you're going to copy this entire thing. We're going to keep it on the clipboard for now. I'm going to go back into PFsense, and the first thing that you want to do is you want to go to System and Cert Manager, and you see the certificate authorities. We're going to add. So in this case, I'm going to call mine Mulvad CA. Sure. Okay. But instead of creating a certificate authority, we're going to import one. And now you see certificate data. This is where we're going to copy and paste. You can copy and paste the entire thing. That includes the begin and end certificate. And then this has your actual certificate data in here. You're not going to need anything for the private key or anything else, so just go ahead and hit save. Alright, so now that that's done, you're going to have a certificate authority added. It's going to look something like this, depending on whatever you named it. But now you're done with that step. The next thing that you want to do is you want to actually add a VPN connection. So the way you do that is you go up here to the VPN tab, you're going to open VPN, then Clients, and now you're going to click Add. Okay. So now this is where the configuration is going to vary depending on which client you have, but if you have Mulvad, it's going to be exactly the steps that I put below. So you're going to want to make sure server mode is peer-to-peer. That looks good. Protocol is UDP on IPv4. Yep. Layer 3 tunnel mode, all looks good. Interface is WAN. Yep. Okay. So the next thing you're going to want to do is the server host. So in my case, I'm going to do se.mulvad.net. This is the one for Sweden. You can change this to whatever one you want. They have a list of servers available on their site, just like any other VPN provider would. So you're going to put that right here. The server port, I'm going to put 1301. I'm going to call this Mulvad Sweden. Now you're going to put your username and password here, and for Mulvad what you do is you're just going to put your Mulvad account number under the username. Usually for them it's just a string of numbers. You're going to put it in here without any spaces, and then again, specific for Mulvad, it's just a capital M for the password, but for your VPN client, put whatever it is. Under TLS configuration, you're going to make sure that this is unchecked. Now for your certificate authority, this is what we created earlier. Now for your client certificate, just username and password required. All that looks good. Encryption algorithm is going to be AES 256 GCM. We're going to leave enable negotiable cryptographic parameters checked. And now we're going to add another NCP algorithm here. So we're going to add that same AES 256 GCM. All right, now it's added. For our auth digest algorithm, we're going to change that to SHA-384. Now for our hardware crypto, we're going to leave that as no hardware crypto acceleration. All of this can stay blank. Now down to compression, we're going to put no LZO compression, legacy style. Topology is fine. All of this is fine. Now, one thing that I like to add is don't add remove routes automatically, and not to pull routes. So this is pretty important. Okay, scroll down. Gateway creation, both is fine, or IPv4, either one is good. And we'll leave it as default. All right, so now you can see here we have a VPN client. So this is what your traffic is going to go out through, depending on whatever you set up in the next step. So now that you have a client set up here, the next thing that we're going to do is add an interface. So this is how you're going to define which traffic goes through this VPN. So let's go ahead and go over to interfaces, assignments. And in your case, if you have a real firewall, and this one is just a test build, you're going to have WAN, LAN, and probably a couple other ports depending on what kind of NIC you have, but ignore the fact that I only have one. So what you're going to do is you're going to see that it says available network ports, and this is your new OpenVPN client. And again, mine was Mulvad Suite. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. Now I have a new interface. I'm not going to call it LAN. Again, in your case, you already are going to have a LAN. And I'm going to call this Mulvad Sweden. And enable interface. Now it says that you can make DHCP server ranges, things like that. We're not going to mess with any of that, because in this case we're just adding this interface in order to send VPN traffic through it. Alright, now that you have your interface defined, you're going to actually see it in your list here with WAN, LAN, and whatever other interfaces you have. But one of the next ones is going to be your new VPN client. So this is the Mulvad Sweden. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to add your NAT rules. So we're going to go over here to Firewall and NAT, and hit Outbound. Make sure manual outbound NAT rule generation is selected. You don't want automatic. Hybrid probably will work too, because it'll allow you to add rules, but manual is what I recommend. And you're probably going to have a lot more mappings than me. It's probably going to be port forwards, things like that, so don't worry about that. We're just going to add a new one. So we're going to go ahead and add a new one. And our interface is now going to be this new one that I called Mulvad Sweden. The source is going to be the network that you want the traffic to go out of. So it's either going to be a specific IP or it's going to be over a certain network. So what I recommend here is doing it over a certain network. We can define the IPs later. So let's say you want to do it over your entire .1 network and you're using 192.168.1. So we're going to define this entire network to go over this VPN client. And again, we're going to define which IPs are going to go through it, so don't worry about, oh no, my entire network is going to go through it, because that's not what's going to happen. Okay, so now we have no port range or anything else. I'm going to call it Mulvad Sweden address. Okay, and it's over any protocol. It's over any address family. You can probably change it IPv4 if you're only using that. And once you apply, you're going to have your new mapping right here. So again, we're not passing any traffic through this yet because we still have to define our rules and we still have to set up a couple other things, but this is the next step. So the next step that you want to do is you want to create your gateway group. And I say group because you may have multiple VPN clients. In this case, I only have one, but maybe you have multiple that you want to connect at the same time. In Mulvad's case, they allow 5 connections at once. So you could do 5 different clients, or you could do 3 different clients. It's really up to you. So the same rule is going to apply regardless if you have multiple clients or you just have one. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to System, Routing, Gateway Groups, Add, and you're probably just going to have this IPv4 gateway. This came up by default because I didn't disable IPv6. So what you want to do is just go to Tier 1. This means it's the first one that's going to connect to. If you have multiple clients, you can set them all to Tier 1. Just make sure that you don't go over the account limit that your VPN provider has given you. So for Mulvad, that's 5. I recommend only using a couple at a time. That's really if you want to compound the speed, you can use multiple connections. Makes sense. So in this case, I'm going to call it Mulvad Gateway Group. We'll see if it takes it. And packet loss or high latency for the trigger level. And apply. So now you have your gateway group. Now that you have your gateway group set up, we're going to go ahead and go over to rules. And now this is where your configuration is going to change a lot depending on what you want. So if you want, let's say, one IP to go through this new VPN client that you set up, it's going to be very similar to what I'm showing you. If you want multiple IPs, you may want to set up an alias over here. And you want to say, okay, I want all of these IPs to go through it, and you're going to call it something. You're going to call it VPN clients or whatever it's going to be called. Sure. So then you're going to use this alias IP instead of an individual IP. But really it doesn't matter. This is kind of how you want to configure it. So we're going to add a new rule, and we're going to say that it's pass over LAN, and the protocol is going to be any. And so in this case, it's going to be traffic that is over your VPN clients. So like I made up those, or if you want just this IP or whatever it is, or you want the entire network, let's say, if you want all of LANnet. So it doesn't really make a difference which one you want to pick. The destination is going to go anywhere. But the trick is, and this is what makes it different than other rules, is that under gateway here, under advanced, this is where you're going to select your new gateway group that you just set up. So this is any of your different VPN clients are going to be part of this gateway group. And it means that the traffic is now going to go through this gateway instead of going through your normal WAN gateway. So otherwise, in this example, all of your LAN is going through that gateway. So that's probably not what you want. You probably want to set it up with just your VPN clients that you set up, or you want one IP. But just as an example, everything else you can leave as blank. This is all you want, is to make sure to change this gateway. So once you apply that, now you have these clients are now going through this gateway group. Now that you have your rule set up, really there's a couple miscellaneous things that we got to clean up. So you want to go to System, Advanced, Miscellaneous, and go down to Gateway Monitoring, and you want to select Do Not Create the Rules when the gateway is down. This is really important, because if for whatever reason that new VPN client gateway group that you created isn't working, you don't want the traffic to be directed through it. You still want traffic to pass through to the internet rather than having no connection at all. If you want kind of a fail-safe where if it's not passing through the VPN, it's not passing, then don't check this box. But this is really the last thing that you need to do. Once you're done with this, it's really just a matter of going and tweaking your rules and saying which clients do you want to pass through your gateway group, or do you want to add more clients? And if you add more clients, then you need to add a couple more interfaces, and then you need to go back into your gateway group and modify it and add whatever new VPN clients that you added and set whichever tier you want. So that's all you need to do. Now you have traffic that's passing through your VPN, and you don't have to set up individual VPN clients anymore. You can do that all through PFsense. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.